Hey, MC back again with this bothersome Bear Creek, this little 10mm I just picked up. So the problem I found just with my tabletop review and inspection is that my Extractor, this is the bolt carrier group for the Bear Creek 22 long rifle, but we can see pretty good with this one, if we get this to focus, how the Extractor is supposed to work. It is supposed to reach around and grab the rim of the cartridge, hanging onto it so that we can pull the stuff back out of the action. The problem I had with this 10mm is the Extractor stopped short. It did not claw around and grab a hold of the rim. So this rim thickness is about 0.05 to 0.051 inches in thickness, and so our Extractor did not exit the bolt far enough forward to grab the rim. So you can see this pocket here. The Extractor fits in that pocket. There is this spring assembly. The spring and pin slide into this groove. The spring gets compressed, and then the pin pushes up against the back side of that Extractor that is captive in that pocket. If I'm not grabbing the rim, that either means that my pocket is in the wrong spot and needs to be moved forward, which is a little bit difficult to do in the field on the bench at home, or perhaps we can just modify our Extractor so we've got about 330 inches worth of a gap between the claw and the foot of the Extractor. So our rim again is about 0.50, and our spring tension pushes on the back. So therefore, if we remove this little sliver of metal in the back, that should allow the whole Extractor to feed forward up against the bolt face and give us more extension beyond the bolt face to be able to grab the rim of the cartridge. So currently the foot of this thing is about 0.112 inches. So the trick is going to be hand fitting it, removing a sliver of metal and doing a test fit. So right now I know what my dimensions are. We've got that stuff mapped out, and we can grab our bench tools and start carving away. So I'm going to spare you the boring details of material removal, since it is just a tiny little part, and as much as my camera's shaking, you'll probably get driven nuts, so be right back. Alright, I've removed a little bit of material off that back side on that foot, but we still aren't quite gripping that rim yet. Another observation I had is we are now extending a bit beyond our bolt face with that Extractor. So one consideration is, and this is the spare barrel, is since we're a blowback, our bolt face and our barrel breech are just kind of square cut. This is dished in though a little bit, so it's got a radius cut here with a feed ramp. So I guess the consideration is making sure that my Extractor does not stick out too far to become a problem with the seal when the bolt face comes in contact with the back of the barrel. These cartridges headspace internally. This is a 40 Smith & Wesson, so it's a little bit shorter. So I'm going to continue to slowly remove a little bit of a material and just keep track of how far out we're sticking beyond the bolt face here. But yeah, as you can see, this doesn't quite grab that rim yet. Alright, we got this all back together now. And where we ended up at is we started at 0.112. That now is skinnied down to 0.90, or actually I moved the decimal place in the wrong spot. That would have gotten much, much bigger. Yeah, public school math, right? So this is 0.090. And then we are 0.348 gap now in between. So removing it off this back side seemed to do the trick. Let me throw this in the camera stand and steady things up a second, and we'll give you a closer view. Alright, so now we got the 10mm. This clips in and stays captive. You can still drag it off, but at least it's grabbing the rim now. And as far as clearances, it looks like we're still locking up tight. We'll do some testing now that we can feel comfortable firing it. But if we would have left it the way it came shipped with that short, I mean, granted, we're not supposed to shoot 40 Smith & Wesson with it because the rim is the only thing holding the cartridge up against the bolt face. But if we were to have a malfunction and have the cartridge get stuck, alright, I've got a 10mm resized here. So snap that in. But if we were to have a misfire where it doesn't ignite and we don't have the natural blowback, and we did have to manually extract the cartridge, or if we had some other malfunction, we definitely want this extractor to be grabbing a hold of the rim so that we can get our cartridge back out of the barrel. Under normal firing operations, the extractor on a blowback probably isn't super critical because just the nature of firing is going to blow this cartridge out of the chamber. The pressure coming back from the gases leaving the barrel are going to keep the cartridge pushed up against the bolt face while it's traveling back. And in that brief time frame while it is rolling back, it will eventually come into contact with the ejector, which will knock that cartridge off the face of the bolt, spitting it out through the injection port if everything works correctly. So next up, let's get this 10mm outside, do some shooting. So we'll conclude the let's fix it ourselves and not wait for Bear Creek's reply. I mean, granted, it's only been 12 hours or 14 hours, I think, since I sent them the email. So no reply back from them yet on the fix for the problem. But a little bit of a file, some patience, slowly removing material. And it did turn out that this extractor appeared to be identical to the extractor that's in my Bear Creek 22 long rifle. So worst case, if I did bugger that up and need to get a replacement, I think what they did is just grab some off-the-shelf common items, which if I were manufacturing this, that's exactly what I would do. You know, why totally reinvent a specific part when you're trying to keep your cost point down where the average consumer can afford one of these things? So yeah, good job, Bear Creek. Just needed a little bit of fitting and you'd have a lot more satisfied customers. But otherwise, all in all, I have no complaints. Thank you, Bear Creek.